You have 17 tabs open right now. A Reddit thread, 2 YouTube videos you haven't watched yet, a 47-page PDF you downloaded 6 months ago and never opened, 3 browser bookmarks titled Read Later from 2022, and somewhere in that chaos, a goal, a business idea, a career change, a project, something you've been almost ready to start for a very long time. Here's the thing nobody tells you about this pattern. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean you're not serious. In fact, most of the people who do this are among the most motivated, driven, and intelligent people I've ever studied. The research is the problem. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why your brain keeps doing this, and why just start is the worst advice anyone could give you. Let's describe the pattern precisely, because you probably know it better than you'd like to admit. It starts with a legitimate goal. You want to start a business, learn a language, write a book, apply for that job, launch a YouTube channel. Whatever it is, the intention is real. So you research. Reasonably at first. You watch a few videos, read some articles, makes sense. But then you find a forum, and in that forum someone mentions a book, and the book has 400 reviews on Amazon, and one review references another book, and that book has a podcast episode, and the podcast episode mentions a course, and the course has a free trial, and suddenly you've spent 4 hours preparing to start, and you haven't started anything. This is not preparation. This is procrastination wearing productivity's clothes. According to Dr. Joseph Ferrari, one of the world's leading researchers on procrastination, approximately 20% of adults worldwide are chronic procrastinators. But that number dramatically understates how widespread the over-researching version is, because this form of procrastination is invisible. It looks like work. It feels like progress. It produces something. Knowledge, notes, bookmarks, so the brain doesn't register it as avoidance. So if research procrastination isn't laziness, what is it? The answer involves your brain doing something very specific, something it was never designed to stop. Psychologists call it analysis paralysis, but the name undersells what's actually happening in your brain, because this isn't really about analysis. It's about dopamine. Here's what the neuroscience shows. When you find a new piece of information, a useful article, an insight from a video, a promising strategy, your brain releases a small burst of dopamine, the same chemical associated with reward, pleasure, motivation. The brain literally experiences research as a win. But here's the crucial detail, discovered by neuroscientist Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan. Dopamine isn't released by getting a reward. It's released by anticipating one. It's the seeking, not the finding, that triggers the hit, which means every new tab, every new source, every "let me just check one more thing" fires the reward circuit. Research feels like progress because neurologically your brain is treating it as progress. Think about what happens after you find a really good article about your goal. You feel capable, prepared, almost as if you've already taken a step. That feeling is real. Your brain is genuinely rewarding you. But you haven't moved. You've just simulated movement, and your nervous system can't tell the difference. Research gives you the feeling of progress without the risk of failure. Softer now. This is the emotional truth. Deliver it like a revelation. And that brings us to the real reason people over-research. It's not a love of information, it's a fear of starting. Because as long as you're still in the research phase, you haven't failed yet. The business is still viable. The novel is still brilliant. The idea is still perfect in your mind, in your notes, in your 17 open tabs. The moment you start, you might find out it's harder than you thought, that you're not as ready as you believed. And that possibility, that specific discomfort, is what the research is quietly protecting you from. Let this breathe, then continue. Psychologists call this approach-avoidance conflict. You want the goal, genuinely, deeply, but you're also genuinely afraid of failing at it. So you do something that feels like approaching while actually avoiding. You research, you plan, you prepare, indefinitely. Shift tone, warmer but honest, like a friend who cares enough to say something uncomfortable. Here's what this pattern costs you, and I mean this in a very specific, measurable way. Every hour you spend over-researching something you could have started is an hour of real feedback you didn't get, because the only information that actually matters about whether your idea will work is the information you get from doing it, not from reading about people who did it, not from studying their frameworks, from actually moving. Measured. Let each sentence land. A 2024 paper in the journal Frontiers in Psychology confirmed what practitioners have known for decades. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotion regulation problem. People don't delay because they can't manage their calendar. They delay because starting something triggers genuine emotional discomfort, anxiety, self-doubt, the physical sensation of uncertainty, and the brain reaches for the nearest thing that relieves that discomfort. Research relieves that discomfort perfectly, temporarily, and without consequence, until you look up and realize 2 years have passed. There's a term for what the research loop delivers: fake progress. It promises the same dopamine hits and the feeling of momentum that comes from doing the work without any of the risk. And the brain, which is fundamentally wired to prefer certain reward over uncertain reward, will choose fake progress over real action almost every time, unless you intervene. The research loop is seductive because it lies to you in the kindest possible way. It tells you you're not avoiding, you're preparing. It tells you just a little more information and you'll be ready. It tells you the people who failed didn't research enough, you're different. And every one of those statements is designed to protect your self-image while keeping you exactly where you are. So what do you actually do about this? First, stop trying to feel ready, because here's what the research actually shows about motivation. It is not a prerequisite for action. It is a result of action. Clear and grounded. This is counterintuitive. Let it land. Behavioral psychologists call this behavioral activation. When you begin a task, even imperfectly, even in a tiny way, the brain begins generating real signals of progress and reward. Momentum builds, clarity improves, the work starts to feel more purposeful, but none of that happens until you move. The motivational system stays dormant while you wait for it to switch on first. Practical shift is this. Instead of asking, how do I get ready to start, ask, what is the smallest possible action that constitutes starting? Not the ideal first step, not the strategic first step, the minimum viable first step. One email sent, one paragraph written, one conversation had, one page read with the intention of acting on it today, not filing it for later. The goal is not to be ready. The goal is to get information that only starting can give you. Because the real cost of the research loop isn't time, it's identity. Every year you spend almost ready is another year you think of yourself as someone who is going to do the thing, instead of someone who does it. And that shift in self-concept is much harder to reverse than any skills gap, any knowledge gap, any preparation gap. The research can be caught up. The identity is harder to rebuild. So, if you recognized yourself in any of this, the 17 tabs, the almost ready loop, the research that never ends, here's what I want you to take away. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is seeking reward, avoiding pain, and protecting your self-image from the threat of failure. That's not weakness, that's neuroscience. But understanding it gives you a choice, one that just looping on autopilot doesn't. You are not almost ready. You are ready enough right now to take the next smallest step. Close one tab today, just one. Pick the one you've been avoiding the most, not the one you need more information for, but the one that would require you to actually do something. And do the thing. Not perfectly, not completely, just start. If this video resonated, subscribe. We publish 2 to 3 times a week, always around the psychology of why people think and behave the way they do. And the next video? It's about people who avoid phone calls entirely, who will send a 5-paragraph text to avoid a 30-second conversation. That one is funnier than you'd expect, and the psychology behind it is more serious than you'd think. I'll see you there.